Hi, everybody. It's so funny. No video by me clearly would be characteristically me if I wasn't talking about my hair. It's funny how every time when you have longer hair, how different it looks every time. And today the curls are tighter, and it's just funny. Anyway, as it gets longer, the other thing that's funny about it is how your hair ends up in your food if you don't tie it back. That's the other funny thing. If you're having some soup or you're drinking something, before you know it, you're ingesting your hair. Anyway, the things that I'm learning. Let's come back to the astrology after that brief and characteristically hair-obsessed diversion. The impulse, of course, as I do these videos is to repeat or to provide some sort of a summary of whatever I discussed in my last 2 or 3 videos. I'm not going to directly go into that. You've got those last 2 or 3 videos to look at. But I will start this video by just reminding you that we had a new moon in Gemini a little over a week ago. And as I had said in that new moon, it's very likely that we're going to feel the new moon energy much more after June the 6th. And today's June the 8th. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if a certain amount of go and a certain amount of initiation is now starting to, the kind of feeling that you expect about 48 hours after a new moon, it wouldn't surprise me if this is where you're starting to feel it, where the energies are clearer and a lot more forward-looking. A big reason for this, of course, was that Mercury was still retrograde till about Wednesday or Thursday, June the 2nd, I believe, unless I'm mistaken. Hold on one second. How quickly we forget. June the 3rd. But I always say give Mercury 2 or 3 days to start to gather some momentum or some sense of motion, and that would put us to Monday, June the 6th. That's why it felt like, okay, it's really going to be about June the 6th. And it's very likely that till about June the 6th, till about a day or two ago, it's very likely that we've been wrapping up what this entire Mercury retrograde period has been about. And that brings me to the second point I wanted to make as a summary, which is that my last video focused on a shorter timeline related to the Mercury retrograde period. The new moon was in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Mercury was in Taurus, is in Taurus, and I've talked in the last couple of videos about the link between the Taurus solar eclipse and the activities that are requiring our attention and dedication in the sign of Taurus, where Taurus sits in your chart, what house it occupies, what that house stands for. That's where there's need for growth and investment of energy and activity, because that's what is needed. That's where you're going to learn and establish what you need to learn and establish as you continue to move forward in life and as the North Node continues to move forward in your chart. But I talked about the link, particularly with this Mercury retrograde period, because Mercury entered Taurus on April the 11th, I believe, and this is what I shared in my last video. Squared Saturn on the 24th, entered the shadow period for this Mercury retrograde on April the 25th, entered Gemini on April the 29th. The Taurus solar eclipse was on April the 30th. May the 10th, Mercury went retrograde. May the 23rd, Mercury came back into Taurus. June the 3rd, Mercury direct. June the 13th, it's going to go back into Gemini. And then June the 18th, it's going to clear the shadow period. Now, the dates are, not being given to stress you out as much as, if I were to summarize that, I would say the Mercury retrograde period spanned both the signs of Taurus and Gemini and linked them together. So it could be, and as I've mentioned in my Gemini new moon video, it could be that there are parties or persons related to where Gemini sits in your chart, the house it occupies, what that house stands for, that both will play a forward developmental role linked to the sign of Taurus in the Taurus solar eclipse, but may also play a role in what needs to be discarded and released and managed out and resolved in the Pisces and Scorpio parts of your chart. So you can look at, if you want more information about the retrograde period, which we're technically no longer in Mercury retrograde, because today's June the 8th, it's 5 days after Mercury has gone direct. But Mercury enters Gemini on the 13th, which is, what, 5 days from now, and it doesn't clear its shadow until June the 18th. So it's a very, very, if we look at this shorter cycle that I talked about in my last video, and you're welcome to look at that last video to delve more into the cycle, and you're welcome to look at the Gemini new moon video to really get a sense of the Gemini new moon, and then the eclipse videos prior to that, irrespective. When we look at the shorter cycle, I would say it started around, depends on how you look at it. You could look at it when Mercury entered Taurus for the first time on April the 11th. You can look at it, or you can look at it at around April the 25th or so. Irrespective, themes, communications came up in April, where Mercury then went retrograde May the 3rd, direct May the 10th, direct June the 3rd, and clears the shadow period June the 18th. So really there's one cycle that I would say that lasts between April the 24th and June the 18th that is still continuing. And now that Mercury is direct, it would not surprise me at all if communications related to dotting the I's, crossing the T's, resolving Mercury retrograde issues continue till about June the 18th. Certainly, if you know where Taurus sits in your chart and what house it occupies, and you want to complete some communications or get the word out, get emails out, some of these communications are already going to find you because they are resolving the Mercury retrograde cycle right now till June the 18th. Until June the 13th, Mercury is still in Taurus. So some of these communications are going to happen without your initiation because they are related to activities that are already in motion. And with Mercury, it's communications, it's contracts, it's plans, it's technology, it's finishing thing. You know, there's a communication element, there's a technology element, there's a use of, there's the skill acquisition aspect of Mercury and knowledge and information and transfer, and then there's the technology aspect of it, there's the communication aspect of it. All of that may somehow be wrapping up whatever it is that has been going on for the past few weeks. So that cycle still continues until June the 18th. Wouldn't surprise me if those issues continue to get wrapped up. With Mercury retrograde, as I've mentioned to you before, it is as if in February, March, and April, things were moving forward in a certain direction, and then around May the 10th, and this could go, it could be something that started to brew around April the 24th, but around May the 10th when Mercury went retrograde, it wouldn't surprise me if you came up against a set of tasks or a set of something that needed to be thought through or incorporated that was in your blind spot. And that is what Mercury does. The personal planets are moving direct, and then Mercury retrograde happens every 3 months, and Mercury goes, or the universe goes, you've been moving forward in a certain direction, but you're not aware of something that needs to be factored into your plans. And so Mercury during the retrograde period, and especially those dates when it's going retrograde and going direct, May the 10th and June the 2nd, creates developments around building your awareness around what needs to be incorporated as you continue to move forward. It's not always, usually it's not a pleasant experience because there has to be some sort of intervention from the universe's side to stop action or to delay action or to slow things down in order to complete them or factor things in. And of course, during a Mercury retrograde period, other delays can also happen with technology breakdowns and other things that then continue the slowdown process. However, by now, you should be aware of whatever you needed to be made aware of. Hopefully the process wasn't too agonizing, but it sometimes is between May the 10th and June the 2nd, and now you can continue to move forward until June the 18th. It may be that communications are occurring that allow you to, as I said, dot the I, cross the T, based on this time period, April 24th to June 18th, with the Mercury retrograde period directly in the middle of that from May the 10th to June the 2nd. Okay, still summarizing, but important to go through these dates. The core purpose of this video is to alert you to two other things. Mercury, when it went retrograde, so Mercury entered Taurus April the 11th. Now, here's what I want to mention to you. On April the 28th, it trined Pluto in Capricorn. And then I think it's the 29th or so. Give me 1 second. Yeah. April the 28th, it trined Pluto. April 11th, Mercury comes into Taurus. April 28th, it trines Pluto. April 29th, it goes into Gemini. May the 2nd, it goes retrograde. May the 10th, it goes retrograde. And then on May the 25th, it trines Pluto again while it's retrograde. On June the 3rd, it goes direct. And on June the 10th, 2 days from now, it's going to trine Pluto in Capricorn for the 3rd time. Pluto in Capricorn, transforming something in a significant way, in a permanent way, in the way that we understand permanence in the Capricorn part of your chart. And the Taurus eclipses are helping to support and further the transformation. And the planets that are transiting Taurus, currently Mercury and Venus, and later in July and August, Mars, will continue this transformation. Now, it will certainly help you to know where Capricorn sits in your chart, what house it occupies, what that house stands for, because then what I am saying will really, ding, 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 the bells will go off, or should go off. Mercury, direct, retrograde, direct, final trine to Pluto on June the 10th. Something in the communication realm, in the part of the chart where the North Node eclipse happened at the end of May. Did I get that right? End of April, April 30th. Something that you are communicating, something that is being communicated to you, something that is happening in the mental planning realm furthers this transformation in the Capricorn part of your chart. And as you head towards June the 10th, it could be that it's sort of the first blow in this direction that has been going on since, April the 25th or so, okay? One of the things with this Mercury retrograde is not only that it ties Taurus and Gemini together, but this trine to Pluto is really significant because it is the significant transit that happens 3 times with this Mercury retrograde. And happening again on June the 10th. And it creates and furthers, if you are leaning into the Taurus part of your chart, and you will be invited to, and you have to, and you need to, then as you process and think about it and transact on it and communicate on it, the Capricorn part of your chart will continue to be transformed in a way that is supporting what Pluto is trying to transform in the Capricorn part of your chart. Okay? That's the first point that I wanted to mention to you in this video that I haven't mentioned in previous videos. The second thing I want to alert you to is another Mercury cycle, or the Mercury cycle. So there's a shorter Mercury retrograde cycle that we've been talking about that takes us from about April 25th to June the 18th. Much more focused, and the primary purpose of that is to make you aware of and to help you tie up, complete certain activities that are related to forward movement that occurred between, I would say, about February the 7th to about May the 7th. Now remember, we are in forward movement again between, I would say, June the 6th to about September the 6th, okay? September the 10th is when Mercury goes retrograde again. And all the personal planets are direct until then. So this is why when I say a couple of days ago, over the past couple of days, is when you might be getting some of your mojo back, your oomph back, your energy back. You might be recovering, you might be getting back into more forward-looking activities as opposed to finishing prior activities and getting cognizant of things that you were not aware of and recalibrating, however challenging both of those processes might have been during this time period between May the 10th and June the 2nd. The shorter Mercury cycle related to the retrograde gets done by around June the 18th, once Mercury clears the shadow period in Gemini. The second larger Mercury cycle, Mercury cycles occur when a retrograde Mercury conjuncts the Sun. Whenever Mercury is retrograde, it meets up with the Sun. And then it continues to go retrograde, it goes direct, then it meets up with the Sun again, it starts to move forward away from the Sun, then it goes retrograde and it meets up with the Sun again. From the time that Mercury is retrograde and meets up with the Sun to the second time when Mercury is retrograde and meets up with the Sun is one Mercury cycle. Mercury stands for, as I've mentioned, above all, cognition and communication. So, how your mind is making sense of the world, how it is assimilating information, how it is communicating, how it is picking up information, transactions, skill acquisition, your immediate community, your neighborhood, your commute, the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, the word on the street, resumes, sales, interviews, conversations, TED Talks, social media, computers, iPads and iPhones, Mercury. As I've mentioned to you before, there's a necessity, and I've talked about this in the last 2 or 3 videos, so I'm not going to repeat all of it again. There's a necessity in June, July, and August into early September to really act on and take care of some important business that, now this is where it's interesting. The Taurus side of things concerns me less because I think it's going to happen automatically. And it's more exciting and it's more new and it's where we're meant to be putting our energies and where the development is supposed to occur. So our energy is naturally going to want to go in that direction. But when it comes to the Scorpio part of our chart, where the eclipses of release are occurring, and when it comes to the Pisces part of the chart where Neptune sits, and as planets go through Gemini, the Sun is going through Gemini now, Mercury will go through Gemini, Venus will go through Gemini, Mars will eventually go through Gemini multiple times because Mars will go retrograde in Gemini later this year. As I've mentioned to you, the sign of Gemini becomes really important for 2022 as a sign that is supporting the eclipses, but also activities that are occurring in the sign of Aquarius and Pisces, because the planets as they transit Gemini will trine Saturn in Aquarius and square Neptune in Pisces. There are activities, communications, whether the communications and data processing and information is happening just between you, yourself, and kind of in a behind-the-scenes manner, or it is more extrovert. That is necessary and needs to occur to further the Taurus part of your chart and also to help release whatever needs to be released and protect against whatever needs to be protected against. Released in the Scorpio part of your chart and protected against in the Pisces part of your chart. Okay. On May the 21st, at about 0 to 1 degrees of Gemini, the retrograde Mercury conjuncted the Sun, starting a Mercury cycle on May the 21st. June the 3rd, Mercury went direct. Between May the 21st and June the 3rd is what some astrologers would call requirements gathering for the Mercury cycle. Another way of putting it is, it's like the agenda is made clear. Between May the 21st and June the 3rd, you may become, and it happens in a much more subconscious, it happens sort of in a mental way where there's a sense of, okay, these things need to be tackled. These things are going to need attention. Remember, some of these things are forward-looking and related to the Taurus part of your chart. Some of these are much more protective, require resolution, require boundary setting, require activities to guard against in a certain sense. That could be long-standing issues related to the Scorpio or the Pisces part of your chart. Okay, all of this is supporting the Aquarius part of your chart where Saturn sits and where Saturn is asking you to adopt a new set of behaviors and patterns and boundaries that will support your highest potential in the Aquarius part of your chart. Okay, that's necessary. June the 3rd to June the 16th, where we are at right now. Sorry, let me repeat that. June the 3rd to July the 16th. June the 3rd to July the 16th is time for action and activity and implementation. July the 16th to September the 10th, when Mercury goes retrograde, you may find that you are having to see the results and the impact of everything that you have done by July the 16th and having to tweak things, modify them, finish up what needs to be finished up by September the 10th when Mercury goes retrograde. And between September the 10th to September the 23rd, when the Mercury cycle ends and the Sun meets up with Mercury, a retrograde Mercury again, is when you might find that results related to this Mercury cycle are delivered, or there's a period, there's a kind of a dotting the I's, crossing the T's that occurs at that time. So May 21st to June the 3rd, subconscious agenda being set around what needs to be communicated, clarified, acted on in a mercurial manner related to the sign of Gemini. And because it's Mercury, it's activities related to the sign of Gemini, but people related to where the sign of Gemini sits in your chart, what house it occupies. June the 3rd, June 16th, activity. Another reason why I like this June the 6th date is somehow symbolizing when we start to get into motion. Communications will be occurring related to the Taurus side of your chart, the Scorpio side of your chart, the Pisces part of your chart, supporting Saturn's presence in Aquarius if you do all of this right. July the 16th to September 10th, you start to see results of whatever activity you take between June the 3rd to July the 16th. So July 16th to September 10th, results and tweaking whatever it is that is manifesting or being created. And then September 10th to September 23rd is the finishing touches related to this Mercury cycle in Gemini. And I wanted to give you that communication. It supports what I have been saying over the past few videos, which is between now and September 6th, it's all forward movement. But pay attention to people associated with the sign of Gemini, because they will be potential partners or participants in the Taurus part of your chart, but also you may need to take some actions related to these people to release what needs to be released in the Scorpio part of your chart, but also protect against whatever needs to be protected in the Pisces part of your chart. And if you act in ways that incorporate Saturn's lessons and how Saturn is asking you to upgrade your behaviors and patterns in the Aquarius part of your chart, then you're going to be on track with what this Mercury cycle is about. And as I said, Mercury trines Pluto in a couple of days' time, and so the Pluto part of your chart continues to be transformed by this Mercury retrograde. I know this is a little bit more detailed, but I'm trying to do more videos and give you more information as I do more videos. Feel free to share, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button to be notified when I do new videos, and I will see you the next time. Thanks. Bye.